Hi everybody, Chris Titley here and welcome to Scoreboard.
This episode is powered by SwiftX, Australia's top-rated crypto exchange and proudly homegrown, just like many of the athletes and business leaders we feature on Scoreboard.
Hi, it's Chris Titley here and on today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast, I'm joined by Nick Maxwell. Nick, thank you so much for being part of the series.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me.
Sitting here on Friday, the 14th of November, 2025. Mate, how's your 2025 been in a nutshell?
Very busy, yeah. With business obviously ticking along, so a lot of work on that. A lot of work for planning for the future and what the future of the business looks like. And 3 kids, mate. So plenty of sport and plenty of driving around. And our boys managed to win a premiership in the under-14 Williamstown Juniors. So coached those boys with one of my mates. So that was great to get a win for those boys. So it's been good so far.
Mate, you mentioned the business there. Do you want to talk about what you're up to?
Yeah, Éclà. We're in Hawthorn East at the moment. Soon to be moving, having another location in the city of Melbourne at some stage in the coming future. So we've got serviced offices, meeting rooms, phone rooms, Zoom rooms, and then a members bar, restaurant, cafe, event space. So basically have really nice facilities for people to come to, but then we build a real culture and community around it all through weekly events and different things that we do from a staffing perspective. So it's a pretty cool place to come and work, and it's been great to get to know all our members over the last couple of years and see them grow and see them become part of the community and connect with each other.
Mate, I'm looking for a little office in Melbourne when I come. Can out-of-staters come for a day?
Absolutely, yeah. Come and hit us up. You can come and call in here and use the meeting rooms or the flexible working space, whatever you need.
What about the podcast studio, mate?
We've got a podcast studio, so we've got that too. Yeah, we've got you covered. Don't worry,
mate. I'm giving you a good plug out here. Excellent. people should check it out, mate. You did mention that you're coaching footy for your son.
Yep.
Your relationship with footy, how is it, and how's it changed over time?
Yeah, good. I left footy altogether. So I had 20 years in the industry as a player, then some leadership stuff, and then worked, 2IC in a footy department for about 5 years, and then got to the stage where I was starting to miss out a fair bit on weekends with the kids, with their sport and their growth. And so Éclà sort of came along at the right time for me to make that move and allowed me to still go. I go to games now, but I get to take the kids to games. I still host a lot of functions for the club. For Collingwood at the MCG in particular. But again, it just allows me to be connected with them, allows me to coach junior footy. So still love the Pies and still help out wherever I can. But at the same time, I think as an athlete, it's a really selfish endeavour where it's all about you and your time and what you need to eat and when you can holiday, etc. Certainly has its rewards, obviously, but from that perspective, I think after 20 years, it was time to have a look at something else and now start giving back to the kids a bit more.
I've got a friend that's been made redundant after 14 years with an organisation, and I sort of relay that to an athlete's journey as well. It's very hard, I suppose, to change your identity and to not be involved. How did you go with that? Obviously, you went straight into footy and footy clubs in terms of coaching and high performance, etc. But how did you deal with that sort of, I'm not a footy player anymore?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think for me, it probably wasn't as hard because I missed out on so much so early, where I was overlooked for 4 or 5 years with the Geelong Falcons. Finally made it there, then tried out and was overlooked by Port Adelaide, Hawthorn, Geelong. So basically, I always thought the next day I could get sacked effectively as soon as I got an opportunity with Collingwood. So I guess my mindset and who I was as a person wasn't tied to me as an athlete. It was just me who played football, knowing that it was going to end at some stage, and I probably expected it would always be sooner rather than later because of those setbacks I'd had early on. So I had a different mindset where my identity wasn't locked in as a footballer. And unfortunately, I think with all these players coming through and athletes coming through in particular from sort of the middle of their teenage years, they're very good at whatever sport they're doing. And that's when everyone's telling them, you've got a career in this, you're going to make it. And we know that the chances of making it are so slim just to get onto an AFL list as an example or whatever sport you're playing. And then to make a career out of it is like 1% of those ones that actually make it on the list. So I think we need to do a lot more work in that regard. But it's all tied into the identity piece where a lot of athletes, and I see it with footballers, where they finish. It's not just about the change in the money and the self-worth in terms of the footballer, and everyone knows what you do and sees what you do every weekend. that's also the identity piece in that, realising that football isn't your whole life and that you've got another whole half of your life to live if you're lucky enough to do it for as long as I was. You still got another sort of 35 years of work to do after that. So always planning and preparing for that and having something outside of football I think is critical.
How did you go with the sort of missing the competitiveness every week and getting out and having that game situation?
I was actually okay, I think. I am very competitive, but I think at the same time, I couldn't. I had 5 surgeries when I finished. So I broke over 30 bones when I played. So I sort of had a lot of injuries over time and certainly paying for it now. But at the same time, it was, from my perspective, the competitiveness was you can't compete at that level if you don't do all the other stuff. And I didn't have the ability to do all the other stuff. So there's no point sort of thinking about it and resting on it. So for me, it's more about now with the kids, with their coaching. I'm certainly competitive with that as well, but it's more about the teaching and the learning and trying to help them and just seeing little moments that help them improve and help them as young men continue to grow as they go. So that's sort of something they're pretty passionate about, me and the other guys that we are involved at the footy club. And so the competitiveness I've sort of gone away a little bit, which is an interesting one given how competitive I've always been.
The connection with junior footy there and being down there and watching the kids going out and having fun and them building connections and friendships, how do you feel with that? Does it take you back to the levels of fun that you were having as a junior?
Yeah, it certainly does, and I talk about this a lot. Where my local football club, St Joseph's in Geelong, that was what we did. There was a Friday night game of AFL footy. There was a Saturday afternoon game on TV. That was it when I was growing up. There was no social media, so AFL players weren't real to you. Whereas I'd go down and play under 13s, under 15s, under 18s at St Joey's, and then you hang around all Saturday, watch the reserves play, watch the seniors play, go stand in the huddle with your heroes right next to them at 3/4 time, and like they were the guys that I looked up to. So that community and connection from the football club sort of something I've always had and always been passionate about and understand how important that is. So it's certainly great to see these kids coming through and probably, I guess, a bit more with my experience in AFL, going back to that level, you can sort of see, you can pick up a lot more little intricacies. You can see when a kid's a little bit down. You can see when things aren't quite right. You're not just trying to coach a whole team to win and coach a game plan. You're trying to coach little things to help them improve and spend more time with them. And I think that a lot of times we fall in the trap of just having a coach that's a coach of a football team and here's from a junior level, here we go, this is what we have to do. This is the game plan. Whereas we build a whole team amongst it. So we always have a co-coach and then we have a whole team where they can go and take drills and I can be off the side just chatting to a certain kid or grabbing them and talking about something else or showing a skill. So just trying to find more time to give them that sort of mentorship and friendship as much as around the coaching part.
You sound very into your coaching, mate. I'm just from the 14s to the seniors to the AFL. Like, is this the career trajectory at the moment?
I think a lot of people actually, a lot of people are surprised, I guess, because of the way I played that I didn't take that track. But you've just got to be like, you have to be all in as an AFL coach and assistant coach, AFL coach. Like you're cutting hours and hours of vision after every game, then you're going to watch the VFL and watching how they went. So I'm just not that obsessed with it, and you sort of have to be obsessed with it to be great at it. So I'm probably more down that management pathway, which I've sort of gone, and I went and did my MBA and that was looking at more operational roles, and then jumped out of it. So not
just
for me.
while I'm touching on the club footy, when you were playing club footy and nowadays in 2025 in club footy, what are some of the material differences? Is there a little bit more parental behaviour, is a little bit more sort of untowardness to referees, etc.? Like, is there any patterns that you're seeing now?
I probably think the kids are going through a lot more. They've got a lot more in their head, whereas we didn't. So we just you go to school and you go and play sport, and then you go back to school and you go and play sport, and that was sort of your life. Whereas now they've got social media and PlayStation, and there was no such thing as anxiety and depression when I was growing up. So it's actually Scott Waters. I just had him here he does Life Changer, and he's here at Éclà last week for one of our events, and he talked a lot about that if you think about the biggest challenge that I had as a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old versus what they're facing now, the list of things that are in their mind and that's going through their head versus what we had is just so different, and the world's just so different. There's you think about the baseline of half a dozen subjects that we were learning at school. Now there's like 150 different things they can learn. And is AI going to take the job that I've been passionate about, that I wanted to do? And there's so many things happening. So I guess you want sport to become, you don't want it to become another added stress or anxiety on top of that. You want it to become a bit of a safe space. So for me, that's sort of something that me and Slugger, my mate who we coach with, we try and create that where it is a safe space where we can take kids off to the side and have a chat to them and check in on them, and also help them build resilience as well, because that's the other thing. We don't want them just to be, it's all beer and Skittles. It's actually, you need to teach them that bad things are going to happen in your life, and bad things are going to happen in a game, and you've got to actually move on and what's important, what's not important, and focus on the things that you can control, which can be a lot for a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid. But the more we talk to it, the more we give them examples of it, and the more we show them, I feel like it just sort of helps them. And we certainly saw that this year with a lot of our kids.
Yeah, the word resilience, I try and teach my kids that, or at least kind of, introduce that into the vocabulary. It sort of goes, whew. And it's a bit tricky one to manage. I'm curious, you mentioned about anxiety as a child, and maybe you're not going through that, but you had a lot of setbacks. Were you a confident young kid? Do you see confidence in some of these kids, or is it a little bit different to the way you were growing up?
Was I confident? I think that I certainly had a level of confidence, but there was sort of always self-doubt as well. Everyone goes through that. And then the more I got cut, the more I wanted to prove people wrong. So the more I didn't make teams, the more I was like, I want to show you. So I'd work harder. And I don't know where that came from. And even my parents have been asked, I don't know where it came from. They sort of, your parents feel every bump and bruise that your kids go through. So it's an interesting one, not knowing the answer to it. But I certainly see now little things that are outside of their control that, like an umpiring decision goes against them, and they sort of and they want to argue the umpiring decision. You're like, they're not going to change their mind, so let's move on straight away. The quicker we move on, the quicker we're looking at the next opportunity. And when you make a mistake, we encourage mistakes, and we talk about it. Like, if you make a mistake, that means you're trying. If you're not making a mistake, then you're just safe and you're just playing within yourself. So we encourage the mistakes, and then talk to them about it. And a lot of the time, I think as coaches and as adults, we will, in particular with sport, we will talk to the kids expecting that they understand what we're talking about. So there's a couple of ways that we work around that. The first one is repeat back to me what I said, so I can get an understanding of what I've said to you. And then from that perspective, you learn whether they're taking that in or whether they're not taking that in. And then the second part is I actually use my phone to film them. So I'll go, boys, we're not working hard enough. So if I just say we're not working hard enough, let's work harder in this drill, what does that really mean to them? Whereas if I can film them and I show them just jogging and I show them sprinting, I go, which one's better? Which one's working harder? Obviously the sprinting one. But once they see it, then they get it. Even having a set shot routine at goal, obviously the anxiety of missing a goal is the big one, where I'll film them, and quite often it's just about the technique. And I'll just go, we're not talking about the result, it's actually the process of it. So were you going in a straight line? Did you fling your body off to the side when you kicked it? And I'll actually film them and show them, so they actually get a chance to see themselves rather than just hear me tell them and expect that they know what I'm talking about.
When it comes to winning on that topic and giving everything that you've got and the best version of yourself, and then seeing what happens mixed with competitiveness and hormones and all those things as teenagers and you, etc. Where was winning in your mantra? Was it winning for you being the best version, or was it winning like, no, we need to win this game?
I think that the winning the game is sort of, that's the end result. Like, you go back to the process. So if you get the process right, then the result will look after itself in anything you're doing. So for me, it was more about just working as hard as you can and trying to continue to improve, take the feedback that you need. And now, even as I said, from a coaching perspective, that's even more so with the kids, because you can't win everything. And I think as a young kid, especially if they see someone like who's played AFL, for me, going and coaching these young kids, they just think, oh, he played AFL, so everything just has gone like this for him the whole way through on his graph. They don't understand, no, it's like that, and it's there and there and there and there, and then you go up. And the thing is, after every up, usually if you're drawing your timeline, there's always a down. So how do you get yourself back up to the next up? And also, every time there's a down, you know what's coming next, it's an up. So it's not going to last forever, and it's a moment in time. And I think that so often They think the world's going to end from such small things that aren't important. There's a Heath Ledger painting that I refer to a lot. Won the what's the best painting in the world?
Oh, mate, you're asking the wrong guy.
Not the Pulitzer. Not the Pulitzer.
I could name some early 90s cricket scores, but not the
Whichever one it is. There's actually a photo of him and then another photo of him either side, a painting, talking in the ear of himself. And I use that because it's every single one of us. And we know, unfortunately, what happened with Heath in his life, but how brilliant he was. And for me, it's you think of that from a male perspective or a father's perspective or a parent. There's so much going on in our own lives and all the people that are talking to us and what's important, what's not important. We've actually learned how to filter that and understand what's real and what's not. Kids don't. They've still got no idea. So if someone says something to them at the wrong time and they hear that, all of a sudden that's the truth. And that's why we've got to be so careful with things like social media, because they read something. Even now, I don't even know what's real anymore. What's AI, what's not AI, what's the actual truth, what's reported, what's not. Even when it's reported by a reputable source, I go, oh, it could have been hacked. Like, I don't even believe most of the things I read. So if I don't, how are we protecting our kids, which is an interesting one about probably a bigger picture discussion.
Yeah, no, for sure. You mentioned about your deep belief of self-worth and sort of that underdog mentality that you live through your life and you don't know kind of where it came from. At what point did you start to believe that you actually belonged and you belonged as a footy player?
Probably after I'd been an All-Australian and second the best and fairest and got a bit of recognition. So I was captain of the club.
From a public point of view. That
yeah,
sort of
probably.
You like, actually, I've made it.
Yeah, I think that there is a bit of the recognition from that, but it was also a recognition of me knowing, going out into a game and knowing what I was capable of. So if I went back sort of the year before, I knew I was capable of a dozen possessions and could stop my man, but not have a huge influence on the game personally. But I could also lead, knew the game plan, knew how to guide the team around the park. By the next year, when I was averaging sort of over 20 touches and I could actually leave my man and impact and win the ball back for us, and there was sort of I knew what I could do out in the ground. So there was a real change between 2008 and 2009. And then I think the added support from the club voting you in as captain, there's also a responsibility that comes with that. So that wasn't for me a weight. That was all right, people have put their trust in you. Now it's time to prove them right, that they've made the right decision. And that's a sort of probably the halfway mark of my career was then, where the first half of my career was proving people wrong. The second half was proving people right. If that makes sense. So proving people wrong who didn't think I belonged, who didn't think I was good enough. I'll show you. And then getting to a point where people had made a decision that we're going to give you the responsibility of being captain of the footy club. We need you to play well each week to help our team. I'm going to prove these people right, that they've believed in me, that they've backed me. So I want them to be proved right. So it sort of flipped for me halfway through my career.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, I've talked to a couple of former Test cricketers, and the day they get their baggy green's one of the happiest days of their life. But then, for instance, Nathan Horrocks, one of the earlier episodes, went out and he got a second ball duck. He's like, my childhood dream has come true. I'm about to go out and bat, and he gets rolled by a spinner, and he's like, that's it. And he's like, oh, that was it. Yeah. When you got announced as captain for Collingwood, what was the feeling there about your identity? Was it uplifting, or was it like, no, the job's just about to start?
It was definitely the job's about to start. It was, oh shit, now what? And I think, again, if you're looking at what you have to achieve or what you want to achieve, rather than going back to, so the scoreboard looks after itself. You go back to what's the process, what's the next step, what do we need to do? And so for me, I was never nervous for a game of football in my life. And people think, what? You're crazy. You're playing in front of 100,000 people and there's a million watching at home. And if you're captain of a club that 10% of the population love you and the other 90% hate you. So there's a lot going on there. And I was like, well, you're playing sport. Sometimes you're just going to get beaten. The greatest of all time in any sport anywhere still get beaten. So I just always went back to, if I reviewed my week, if there wasn't something I would change, what more can I ask myself? So I've eaten the right foods, I'm hydrated, I've trained hard, I know the game plan, I know the opposition, I've studied everything they do, I've helped my teammates during the week, and get to game day and I've done everything right. If I'm not going to have changed anything to that point, you go out there and it's a game then. So then things are going to go your way, things are not going to go your way. You're going to play well, you're not going to play well. But if it wasn't going to be for lack of effort, lack of trying. So if something got to a point where I didn't have a good day or the team didn't have a good day, like, unfortunately, that's sport, and it's you're on a roller coaster. You're not on a carousel.
And it's a matter of inches and bounces and weather and umpires' decisions, whatever, everything out of your control. But I suppose if you're, as they say as a kid, do the best you can. That's all we can ask for, as a parent.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, and it's a bit different to some other sports. Some sports, it is purely in your hands. Everything's purely in your hands. I'm trying to think of a good example. Golf.
Field. Yeah.
Where it's up to you. No one's playing against you. It's just up to you. So if you play your best, your best is better than anyone else, you're going to win. Whereas in football, someone's trying to play their best and stop you. So there's an opposition trying to stop you from doing it. So when you're playing golf, there's not someone trying to push you off the tee when you're hitting the ball. I hope that makes sense, and I'm not having a crack at golfers because I certainly would like to be good at it, but I'm not. So yeah, again, it's sort of more of a what more can you ask yourself? And it's not going to be for lack of trying or lack of preparation for me to have a bad day.
But then you've also got the team element as well, right? So you can go out and do everything you possibly can and mark your opponent and nullify them is the word that I used from Darcy Gardner yesterday that he used. And you're feeling good, but then, other things happen and the team goes down by 40. How did you go with that?
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing about playing in a team is that everyone doesn't have to be at their best and you can cover for each other because no one's ever going to be at their absolute best every single time. So being able to be there to support each other and look after each other. And I guess that was the biggest thing for me was I was always getting the most out of myself. But that also had a ceiling. I was never going to be a Brownlow medalist. I was never going to be the best player in the team. But me being 10% better or me making 21 teammates 2% better, some of the 2% of those guys was equal to my 10%. So if I'm 21 players are 2% better and we're 44% better because I can help them by picking them up off the ground or going and putting on a shepherd or supporting them with my voice or whatever it was, that was sort of my goal. If I continue to make them better, I knew I was always going to do everything I could in my power for myself, but that was always my focus, is trying to help them.
You talk about incremental uplift as an individual and also as a unit. Now that you're not playing footy and you're in a management role and a CEO, what are you doing now in terms of preparation and study and incremental uplift, and what's the goal now?
Yeah, it's a good point because it's very, very different. I'll use this example to one of my staff the other day where if someone isn't performing who's my teammate in football, I can just drop them and bring someone else in. So I can't do that with my team in business. So
it's laws around it.
Correct. So it's more of it's not as cutthroat. Like you can't have the conversations that you have in sport out in the field that you would have in the office. So it's more around teaching and giving them more responsibility and making them see the different layers to what you do. And I think that's the big thing is that if you, like in sport, you play your role. If the midfielders win the ball, then it's easy for defenders because the ball's going to the forward line. So it means that we can set up behind and we can actually guide and structure up well. So we're not in a position where we're under the pump the other way. So if the opposition win the ball, it's coming your way, then you're under the pump. So it's more about understanding how your role affects everyone else's role. And I think that's an important thing that you learn in sport. And the other thing, and this is tied back to what you said earlier about your identity and leaving sport and becoming or changing jobs in particular. But when you leave sport, some people leave with a degree, some people don't. But what you do leave with is experiences that aren't measured. So I know if I put on an athlete that's played for 10 years, they're never going to be late to a meeting. Because that door gets locked, you get torn a new one. Like you don't get picked for the team. You're never late to a meeting. You know what it is. Their preparation is going to be good. They're very good at taking feedback because they've taken feedback for their whole career. A lot of the time from people who they don't want feedback from. They're resilient. So when things go wrong and they get injured, they know how to fight through that and work through that. So they know that you're never going to be your best every single day, but you still got to show up. You can't ring the MCG on a Friday and say, I know we've got a game at 2:00 tomorrow, but can we push that back a week because we're not quite ready? Like, it's just, you're ready. You got no choice. And you're ready might be 90% ready, but you're going out there at 90%. So athletes bring like the right attitude and a lot of the behavioural things that we're desperate for in business. I always go, I can teach them everything else. I can teach them what I need from them. I can teach them the roles. I can teach them the other stuff. But it's really hard to teach behaviour and attitude, and those things are just ingrained in you as an athlete.
You mentioned feedback there. Like, the feedback that you get as a player and as a team is, broadly speaking, the scoreboard on the weekend to a degree. And so then you go again and you're ninth in the table, so you need to win to go in the 8. And there's things like that. But when it comes to a work week, you've got a Monday, Tuesday, you've got a slow week, and there's not something on the weekend. It's a weekend's relax and go again. Have you kind of implemented a little bit of inner mongrel or kind of like a competitiveness to kind of get your staff and people around you kind of high performing?
I think the first thing you do is lead by example. So for me, it's showing up every single day with the same attitude, wanting to get better, wanting to improve, all hands on deck. So we're very much, we're 2.5 years old as a business, but from the first day it was whatever job I need to do, I'll do. And I'm not, in my role, I'm not too, don't feel I'm too important to not take the rubbish out or to not help flip the room when we've got a new event coming up. So for me, it's about leading by example firstly, and then you just hope that people follow that and they see that and they are drawn to that. And not everyone is. So you do lose a few along the way, but majority of them want to come with you and want to be part of that. I think the second thing is making them understand, like celebrating the wins with them. So when something comes up and something goes well, making them understand that like this is a win. So, and when I talk to different business groups, I talk about what's winning look like for your group. So you might be a builder or a commercial builder, for example. That project might take 2 years, 3 years to build a building. There's obviously a lot of work goes in just before you pour the piers to start that building. But how do you keep everyone motivated for that length of time? So you almost need to break it down and go, what's winning look like in these little categories? And the best example I give is that when you look at a sport, so an AFL game, the coach doesn't talk to the team and look at what they want to do before the game and then after the game to review it. Looks at it before the game, and then they get together at quarter time. And they go, this is what we're doing well, this is what we're doing poorly, this is what we're going to adjust. And the same thing at halftime, same thing at three-quarter time. Then at the end of the game, it's over. You can't change what's happened, but we're going to take the lessons from that and then we're going to move on to next week. So from a business point of view, when you're looking at that building, if you're just looking at 3 years, it's really hard to keep people motivated the whole way through for that 3 years. So how are you actually breaking that down to go, what's important this next week? And a lot of the time you speak to leaders and you go, what's your biggest challenge? And they go, having hard conversations. I go, why are they hard conversations? And they say, what do you mean? I go, well, they should just be conversations. I said, they're only hard if you're having them in a 6 month review or a 12 month review. You should be having them every day. So if I run a meeting, I should get some feedback straight after that meeting. Like, oh, I don't know about that bit. Why'd you go there? Or you didn't get that quite right. Or you went through that presentation you were doing and you flicked through those pages too quick. We didn't get a chance to really take it in or ask any questions. You talk to us and not with us. So all these little things that you can actually improve on. And quite often you're not even aware of some of those things that are going on. So getting feedback from those around you every day is important.
How did you go with feedback? Did you welcome it? Did you early on as a kid were you like, no, I don't, no, I'm pretty good?
No, I definitely welcomed it and definitely took it all on board. And I was probably lucky in a way. I had some great junior coaches who were supportive of that. Mum and dad obviously giving you that feedback along the way. So for me, it was sort of, I've never had a problem. I've always sought it and looked for it, which can also be a challenge even now when in the role I'm in, where the more senior you become, the less feedback you get. Because you're sort of seen as someone who has the answers and that you should know, and everyone comes to you to help get the solutions. So I think at times we can forget that it can be hard for someone to come to you when you might be the leader and you might be the most senior person. It's hard for them to come to you to give you feedback on your performance. So I had this conversation with someone who is my sort of right hand, and I said to her, I don't give you enough feedback because I just sort of rate her at the same level as me. And so I feel like when I was reflecting, I haven't given you enough room to grow just because I rate you so highly. But again, you're falling into, it's a positive of where you rate that person, but at the same time, you've got a job to do in their development, trying to help and support them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I run my own business, and there's lots of people that run their own businesses, and you're right. Like, I don't think, like, people give you feedback, clients give you feedback, etc. But in terms of your own performance, no one's giving you feedback, really. Correct. This is like the lonely CEO. It should be a name for a podcast, right? Because I feel like, you've brought up a very interesting point around like, you've hit a ceiling there, and I suppose the only way you can get it is talk to other business leaders and network and communicate and I suppose have that connection with other people going, actually, you run 30 people, you run 100 people, I'm a bit of a pickle. What's going on? And they're, oh, here's an idea. Oh, thank you.
100%. And that's exactly what we try to do here without making this a sell. But at Éclà, because we're,
mate, go for
it. 250
I'm commercial.
odd, 250 odd members, and the majority of them are small to medium business or sole traders or consultants. And for them, you're going through so much yourself, and you're worried about, particularly as a small to medium business, you can't bring in experts who are going to do leadership talks and support you and be able to guide you and be mentors and that, because you haven't got the revenue to be able to do that, or the resource. So from that perspective, them being able to talk to each other is actually something that we always wanted to happen, but it's something you can't force. People have to find their people and find the ones they're comfortable talking to, and we've been able to create that, which is really cool. Is a lot of them work together now, and a lot of them actually have the opportunity in the hallway. Oh, what are you up to? Oh, I've got a problem with this or whatever it is. I know all about that because we went through that last year, and then all of a sudden the conversation starts, and you've got someone to talk to, and you don't need a solution. It's just sometimes you need someone to play tennis with, just to give you some feedback on the way back and to give you some options and give you some different perspectives who aren't involved in your business.
Sounds like you're having fun as a leader. Is that something which is new to your life? And you talked about the second half of your career there, about when you were appointed as a leader. Like, were you thinking about leadership when you were younger, or now you're in a position of going, actually, this is cool, this is fun?
I definitely didn't think about it growing up, and even when I went into it, Collingwood, I wasn't thinking about that role. I was just thinking about what we needed to do and what we wanted to achieve as a group type thing. And I guess the reasons why I was named captain weren't because of my football ability or anything like that. It was because of, I guess, who I was and how I brought people together. So from that perspective, I think it can be fun, but can also be bloody challenging. There's certainly more grey hairs and sleepless nights for the leader than there is anyone else. And that's the biggest challenge, is that a lot of people want to continue to grow, but when you grow, there's more responsibility. And with more responsibility comes all these other things. So I often talk to, when you talk to groups again, you say, you're a number one brilliant salesperson. And that salesperson's an absolute gun. Then the role of sales manager, who oversees all the salespeople, that becomes available. So often we promote the salesperson because they're the best person in the job, and they're going, what's next for me? What's next? And they go to a sales manager role. That's not about sales anymore. That's about managing everyone else in their sales and having to teach them and having to do that. So it's a completely different role and different mindset that you need. So, and different skill set, and it's not for everyone. So some people are happy just to stay there and be the absolute gun salesperson, but you also got to remind them that how important they are to the business and what they do and what they bring, and make sure that they feel valued. Otherwise, someone will poach them. But at the same time, if you promote them into the management role, all of a sudden they're looking after everyone else's problems, and everyone's coming to them for different things and different issues, instead of them just focusing on them being great at what they do. And that's one of the reasons Dane Swan was, we tried to put him in the leadership group early on, and it was a mistake, because he didn't want to be coming to extra meetings. He didn't want to be coming and talking about what everyone else is doing. He just wanted to do what he needed to do to be the best player he could be and go out there and do the job on game day. And once we identified that and allowed him to do that, he went to a whole nother level again, because he didn't have to worry about all the other stuff that comes with having to lead and having to sort of manage, I guess.
I reckon Warnie comes to mind too.
100%. Yeah. And
he doubled with the early, and then they gave him a one-day thing, and then it's like, no. And that was it.
Yeah, and you still go to those people. So Swanee and Benny Johnson and Dids and those guys were all so important from a leadership perspective. But they were important for different reasons because they had perspective and they saw different things and they had influence over the group. But that doesn't mean they have to be the ones that have to go and do extra corporate meetings and go and do extra media and actually have to go and do all the
and management of people coming in late and all these
100%.
things.
They didn't want to be part of that.
Yeah.
So again, it's identifying what people's strengths are and what works for them. And like you say, Warren is a great example. Tactically, probably one of the greatest of all time on what he was doing and what he could see, etc. But he didn't want to be the one who's going and doing all the extra work outside of that. He wanted to be the one that just went and played cricket and then enjoyed himself and had a good time and competitive as hell.
Yeah, no, that's right. Mate, we're going to get on to some interesting one-on-one type of questions. We've got a sponsor here at Scoreboard, which is SwiftX, which is Australia's most trusted cryptocurrency platform with over 1.2 million users in Australia and New Zealand. As part of their new campaign, Where Can Crypto Take You? We run a little segment called The Bucket List, which is a sporting event, Nick, that you haven't attended thus far that you would love to attend.
I've ticked off most of mine, if I'm being honest. Liverpool at Anfield was certainly one.
They'll be there.
Yeah, they managed to beat Man City 3-1, and it was the year that we actually won it after a long time. So that was the whole town was going nuts. I've been to the Super Bowl, which was unreal.
Oh, right, that was Darcy Gardner's yesterday. Yeah.
Good, yes. Well, I saw Peyton Manning. He was playing for the Broncos, unfortunately, but I saw Peyton Manning, who I'm a Colts fan, so seeing him win a Super Bowl. I've been to the Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium, who's my team, the Indianapolis Colts, the NFL. I've seen Steph Curry play for the Warriors, so I'm very lucky in a lot of things I've done. Probably the one that I see on TV that looks pretty cool. There's two of them. One of them is the Monaco Grand Prix. Just looks like that would be unreal, and there's a big party going on for the whole weekend. And then maybe Augusta, something like that, just one of those big golf tournaments. Dad's been across there, and he certainly loved it, so I'd love to be able to go there with him at some stage as well.
Mate, very important question on Monaco. Do you come in on your private jet or the private yacht?
I'll be coming in on a paddle boat, I reckon.
and then the Masters this year, Rory McIlroy. What an unbelievable! I don't know too many people that didn't watch that and just get goosebumps, right?
100%.
Which leads me on to the next question about your all-time favourite sporting moment. And I preface this with athletes and coaches, etc. That it's not about you; it's about something you can watch 1,000 times over.
I think there's two experiences that I actually went through and saw that were just unbelievable. They still, when I talk about them, the hairs in the back of my neck go up. One of them was Black Caviar won a race at Flemington down the straight on what was Stakes Day. So it's now the champion sprint. But watching her, there's about 400 metres to go in a 1,200 metre race, and all the other horses and jockeys were just going for it. And Luke Nolan was just sitting there smiling, just looking around, and she was just extending. And I still now, get the chills on that one. And same time, I also took my son, who was only about 5 at the time. We went and watched Winx's last race up in Sydney. So that was pretty special too, to see such a champion go out. So I love my horse racing, and those two events were certainly I could go and watch them 10 times over.
Oh, mate, for sure. And when it comes to horse racing, are you an owner, a little flutterer, a studier? Like you said, you study your opponents. You study the form a bit.
Certainly do, yeah. Still doesn't help me on the punt much, but I do okay. I was an owner when I played, a small ownership, but I've got 2 kids in private school, mate. So there's no horses, there's no flash cars, there's nothing sexy going on.
You remember the name of the horse? What was the name of the horse?
Its name was, that's a good question. I won a country race, and that was about it.
Did you go along for that country race and take a photo?
No, we didn't. No, that was useless. It got sold to Perth and actually started winning some races, which really annoyed me.
Oh, no, that's right. Like a stock price that keeps going up.
Correct. I know what it was. It was Bunker Buster was its name.
Bunker Buster?
Yeah. I knew you wouldn't have heard of it because I couldn't even remember what it's called, and I owned it.
We're trying to get first in our podcast. So Nick Maxwell's a horse that went on to win lots of things at that place after he sold it. But and Nick, we also have a second sponsor in PocketSmith. PocketSmith is the personal finance app for the household CFO, the one keeping the budget in check, paying the bills and kicking goals. Over 80,000 Aussies use PocketSmith to track their spending, see their net worth, and plan ahead. Nick Maxwell, I'm curious, are you the CFO of your household, and do you budget?
I am the CFO 1,000 times over, and no one gets anywhere near it. So I certainly am. And with growing kids, it's becoming tighter and tighter every single month with the amount of food they want. So my son turns 13 today, actually, and he's probably up to about here now, 13, and he's size 14 feet. He's just a giant. So new clothes and new shoes and all this all the time, and there's three of them. So the budgeting part is a real challenge, but you do what you can for your kids, don't you?
Mate, absolutely. We went to the local cricket store, Greg Chappell Cricket Store in Brisbane recently, and my 13-year-old son, well, 12-year-old, 13, and next month, similar age, obviously 2012 baby, grew 2 sizes, and his whites were down to his knees. His pads were like at his kneecaps. His bat, he was leaning over. They're like, well, you're going to have to buy some new gear. $796 later.
I was going to say $1,500, so you've done well.
yeah, that's right. Maybe we'll shout out to Greg Chappell Cricket Centre for giving us a bargain there. But,
correct.
I've got 2 more questions, Nick. One is the scoreboard moment, which is a moment in your life that you do recall, and a bit like the sporting moment, you can play over 1,000 times in your head, but from that moment, life changed.
Scoreboard moment. I'm actually going to go right back. I'll go back to under 13s. I was playing. My dad was a coach.
Our sons are there, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And we were playing against a team called Lara, who had beaten us 3 times during the year. They were undefeated all year, and we rolled them in the grand final. And I kicked a goal late. It was like 3 goals 7 to 1 goal 6 or something like that at under 13 level. But I kicked a goal late and remember looking over the scoreboard and going, "How good's this? We're actually going to win a premiership."
There you go, mate. What an excellent moment to recall, and so vivid at that age. Like, this is the age where the kids, like, my 90s music trivia is pretty strong. It's because of this era, right? It's this time when you're grade 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, where the memories and the connections of sport come through as well. And
it's funny, even little things. So my son is amazing at maths, and it's because of sport. Because he goes, well, a goal's worth 6 points, so 6 goals won. And so he starts working it out from all that. And so it just becomes a natural thing with them where they're always looking at scoreboard numbers and basketball for the assists and has he had a triple-double and all those things that come into it. Whereas I see those that aren't involved in sport, maths becomes a lot harder to them because they haven't got that grounding.
Yeah, no, and cricket does that. AFL does that. There's a lot of sport. I mean, like, all the sports have the stats, etc. But the 6 times tables are very prominent amongst 10-year-old boys and girls who are following their idols. One final question around Nick Maxwell about: do you feel proud? Are you happy where you are in your life? And I suppose if people remember you and want to know who you are, how would they describe you?
Geez, that's deep. I need a bit of practice for that one. Well, I guess I met AFL supporters a lot. You go and talk at something, and I often get feedback where someone will come up to me and go, "I barracked for Carlton, and geez, I fucking hated you. But you're actually not a bad bloke now that I've met you." So I guess from that perspective, it's just ordinary bloke who just tries to do the right thing by people and is there for the people I care about or are part of my circle. So I guess that's how you want to remember it, is just someone that's a decent human, that does the right thing. And when you say proud, look, I've been proud of some of the things I've achieved, but at the same time, there's always something else to achieve. So I'll probably spend a lot more time looking forward than looking back.
Excellent. Nick Maxwell, thank you for that. And that was a fantastic way to finish in terms of moving forward, because a lot of people do reminisce on the past and then look back and look back and look back and look back. And you're like, hold on a second, you're spending all your time moving forward looking back. So I really do appreciate you having a chat on Scoreboard today and getting a bit of an insight into your life and the things around and what drive you and the perspective that you have right now. I appreciate it and looking forward to supporting Éclà. Is that how you pronounce it, Éclà?
Éclà.
Éclà, like a little, like Target, a little bit. Like
it means, yes, it's be brilliant in French.
Be brilliant, Éclà, and supporting where I can, coming in and having a chat and doing a day pass when I come from Queensland, and everyone should go out and have a look at it. Appreciate your time and looking forward to catching up.
For sure. Thanks, man.